Funnels are an optional part of configuring goals that can help us identify bottlenecks in multi-step processes and thus provide insight to where we're losing our customers in that process. Let's go ahead and walk through an example of what a funnel report might look like. Click down here to our Goals tab and click on Funnel Visualization. And we see something like this. Okay, in this case, I've set up a funnel that's going to walk us through a typical shopping cart example. In this case, we view one of the product category pages, and then we want people to go on and actually view the individual product page, put that product in their shopping cart, and complete the order. Now, on the left-hand side here, we have the entrances into each part of this step. On the right side, we have the abandonment points. And so what we're looking at here is there's 6,800 people who viewed this particular page. Those 6,800 people entered from these places. 4,500 of them came from the home page. 1,700 of them here came entrance, and that means that they entered the site via this page. 223 came from the privacy policy, etc. Now, where did they go? Well, 69% of them went down to the next step, and the others did not. The 2,100, where did they go? Well, 1,300 of them exited, meaning they left the site completely after seeing this page. 524 went onto the home page, some went to the software page, etc. So the 6,800, 69% of those went down to the next step. Not everybody follows the steps that I laid out. In fact, 3,300 people came directly into the product page without going to the category page first. Another 612 came from the home page, etc. Okay, of these 8,600 people, only 8% went on down into the shopping cart. Only 8% added that item to it. The other 8,000 people went somewhere else. 5,000 of them here left the site completely. They saw my page, they weren't interested, they went somewhere else. 1,100 of them saw something called pop-ups view. Now, what could this be? And what this actually is a pop-up of an enlarged view of the product, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I don't want you to think of abandonment points. Abandonment sounds so bad, but not necessarily. We need to think about this in context of what people are actually doing and figure out if it's really as bad of a thing as we think. In this case, viewing an enlarged version of the product is not necessarily a bad thing at all. And in fact, that's why we see over here that the pop-ups view was one of the entrances into the page. People view the page, and then they head back into the product page itself. The 8% that went down into the shopping cart, 661 folks. Now, there were 711 here because another 50 came in from somewhere else. Where do they come? Well, some came from the homepage. Maybe there's a shopping cart link on the top of the homepage. Some came from the privacy policy. They needed to check out our privacy policy before they were willing to go through with the cart. On the exit side here, we see that 263 people exited the cart entirely. Some went back to the homepage. What about these folks, the sign-in.asp? Is that a bad thing? No, not at all, right? These are people who already have an account with us. These are our returning customers, our bread and butter. That's completely fine. We have some folks who wanted to view another pop-up. Maybe they needed to make sure this was the product they thought it was when it's in the cart. We also have some over here on the entrance side that entered the site via the shopping cart. Now, how could that happen? Well, one of the most common ways is because what we're really looking at here are visits. And a visit expires 30 minutes after your last click. So if I were looking at a particular product, pondering it over, maybe I decided to go to lunch, maybe I needed to think about it, sleep on it. If I came back to that page and clicked Add to Cart, then the first page of my new visit would be the shopping cart. And so that would be an entrance to the site via the shopping cart. So if your exits on this side were matched by an equal number of entrances on this side, you'd be fine. Unfortunately, that's not the case here. And the last one we see here is the completed order. 103 people actually made it all the way through the funnel, 1.19%. Of course, we don't see any entrances to the thank you page because you cannot get to the thank you page without first going through the shopping cart. Okay, we've seen what a funnel visualization looks like, but let's go ahead and look at how we would actually set this up. Okay, remember we said that a funnel was an optional step of a goal. So we go ahead and add a goal. In this case, the goal was to get to the thank you page. Funnels appear on URL destination goals. So we select that radio button, and then we get all these options down here. Now remember, the first step in filling out any type of goals, whether using a funnel or not, is to go all the way through the process. So we've done that here. We went through each step and we copied down the URL of the page that we saw there. Now remember, we don't need domains in this case, we just need the request URI. So the first step was to view a category page. We go ahead and copy that over here. In order to create the goal funnel, we need to click on this down here to create the goal funnel, and it's going to give us some places to put the optional steps. So the URL for the first step is this. Now remember, we said this was going to be a head match. We're only going to match a category page. We don't care about the particular category here, so we're going to drop that off. And all we want to do is make sure that the page starts with category.asp. And this first one was view category page. We go back to our list. We grab the second step, view a product page. We're going to copy that over. And again, let's just go ahead and only copy that head match part. I don't care which particular product it is, so I'm not going to copy the ID. I just want to make sure it starts with product.asp. I click to add a goal funnel, paste that in. Third step. Now the last step is actually not a step in the funnel, it's the goal itself. So when we copy this one over, we're going to paste it up here as our goal URL. It's not going to be step 4, but it's actually going to be the goal step. Enter any goal value we may like, click Save Goal, and the goal's been saved. Now if we go here to the View Reports, down to the Goals menu, click Funnel Visualization, select the goal. We just created the thank you page, and we'll see here that that funnel is prepared and ready for when some visitors come through. Now remember, this is only going to complete and populate from this point on. It's not going to look back and look into your historical data. It's only from the moment you create the goal forward. In this shopping cart example we've been looking at, we saw a huge drop between steps 2 and 3. But we can use these reports to find these types of bottlenecks in more than just shopping carts. For many sites, forms are one of the most critical parts of a page because they are that last final frontier between our visitors taking that next step. Someone filling out a form is just a button click away from being on the customer path, and we want to do everything we can not to derail them. One important thing to determine is, are there areas of our form that are causing them to abandon? Here we see a big drop-off, but it's not entirely clear why. Something in this form is causing a problem. So one option is a multi-step form to identify these problematic areas. We take the same form and break it up into a few different steps. And what we see here is that there is a particular part of the form here that is causing a massive bottleneck. Now at this point as site owners, we have an important decision to make. How critical is this particular data? Is it just nice to have, or is it really necessary? As marketers, we all want as much data as we can get, and some people are not willing to give up that part of the form. Now my job as a consultant here is not to tell you how to run your business and say keep it or don't. My job is to show you the data and show you exactly what the consequences will be of your decision. In this case, if you continue to ask that question, you can expect to lose 90% of the people who have already begun the process of filling out the form. So give some thought to asking for information which is not absolutely required. Generally speaking, the more questions we ask of people, the fewer of them that are actually going to give it to us. We also need to understand a key feature about funnels, the option to denote the first step of your funnel as required. As you're setting up the funnel, you can select whether you want that first step as required in order for that visit to be tracked as part of this funnel. Now this is useful if you're interested in analyzing only, say, the checkouts from a particular page selling mittens. If you don't make the first step required, people can enter your funnels from step 2, 3, so on as seen here. However, if you do make that first step required, we can see how our numbers will change. Now the funnel is only tracking people who started with my required first step. Google Analytics is just a tool, and we can use the tool in some creative ways to find buried insights. For example, one thing that can stop people from successfully completing a form is when they get an error, especially if that error isn't too user-friendly. So one question we often have is, do people just quit there? Do they keep trying? How many of those actually make it? Turns out this is really easy to answer. Now, rather than making a funnel for the whole form, we're just going to make a special one with 2 steps. So first we set up a goal here to complete the contact page. In our case here, the goal is formcomplete.html. That part's exactly the same, nothing new here. However, we're going to create a required first step of hitting that particular error page. In other words, I'm only interested in analyzing the people who hit the error page. The goal remains exactly the same, but the steps in the form are going to be different. In this case, just that one single step. Now what this funnel is going to do is show us exactly how many people who experience this error page were able to go on and submit the goal. And the form's going to look something like this. These are all the people who hit the form error page, and these are all the people who actually made it down to the submission. In our case, just 10% of the people. Now these are people who are trying to be our customer, but our user-unfriendly form just won't let them. Hopefully this report will convince your developer to give that form some much-needed love. Now generally speaking, defined funnels work very well when you actually have a defined funnel, such as a shopping cart, online application form, etc. If you're going to try and define a funnel for a process that is ill-defined, such as just reaching our privacy policy page, there's so many different ways to do that, so many entrances and exits, that the funnel will be a jumbled up mess. Stick to well-defined paths and you'll find they reveal much more usable insights.